Okay, well, let's have another question. We've got somebody up at the back there.
Professor, can I remind you of a lovely statement of Queen Victoria to Mr. Gladstone? She said, "My dear Mr. Gladstone, it really doesn't matter a jot what you think of me. What matters is what I think of you." Similarly, for us Jews in the Galut, in the diaspora, it really doesn't matter what we think we are, whether we think we're secular or Labour or Conservative. What matters in our history is what the host community think of us. Now, I want to make that point. The second point is a question to you. Are you by any chance aware of the work in Israel of Mr. Tzvi Missinai? Does that name ring anything to you?
I met him.
You met him, you know him. So anyhow, for the audience, he's written a book called Brother Shall Not Lift Up Sword Unto Brother. And it's a very interesting point that he makes, that in accordance with the work done by David Ben-Gurion and President Ben-Tzvi about the people of the land of Israel, he argues actually that the Palestinians, and argues very cogently with charts going all the way from AD 68 to 1948, that the Palestinians are in fact Jews. And a lot of the people have vestigial Jewish customs in their families and tribes and traditions. And I know that the Shomronim, the Samaritans up in Nablus, have had Judaism in Israel unbroken for over 2,000 years. And a lot of the people who live in Shechem are in fact Shomronim, Samaritan, or Jews. Would you like to make a comment on that if you can?
Yes, very quickly about the first question that, the anti-Semitic made the Jew, the secular Jew. Sartre wrote a little book about this, very interesting book. The look of others as a part of my self-definition, my self-identity. You are right. All my life, I say that I will continue to be a Jew till the last anti-Semitic person will live with me on this planet. Lately, because political public anti-Semitism disappeared in the Western world, not marginal anti-Semitism. I'm speaking about political public anti-Semitism. You cannot compare today the marginal anti-Semitism with a century between 1850, 1950, what it was to be a Jew in Europe. 1850 till 1950. It was serious anti-Semitism, the Judophobia at that time. Nothing to compare to today. Now, the fact that the Jewish are, the Zionists are using this Jewish identity because, it's an empty identity in some way, for a secular, not for a religious Jew. It's empty because you don't have a specific secular Jewish culture. There is not a future with this identity that is empty. I'm not speaking about religious Jews. To be defined only by your enemies, it's a very important thing, but you cannot, I don't accept it. Especially that Israel are using this identity today in its politics. There is instinctive support of Israel by a lot of Jews that cannot find other acts of identity, of Jewish secular identity. They identify themselves with two things. Two things put forward in this Jewish identity is the Shoah in Israel. If a tragedy becomes the center of your identity, you have to think about it. I advise you to think about it. It can be very perverse. You have to understand. Now, about the second question. Tzvi Sinai is a nice guy, a right-wing guy, very nice one, that very, very early understood that keeping this Palestinian population in this condition till now is not possible. He is from a great land of Israel, Tzvi Sinai. And then, like me, he found the writings of Ben-Gurion, Ben-Tzvi and others, Belkind and others, saying that the real descendant of the ancient Hebrew is the Palestinian. I think that he exaggerates. I don't think that the Palestinians are the real descendant of the ancient Hebrew, because everybody is mixed, as I said before. Every conqueror of the Palestine lands, left his sperm, also.
Sperm.
You know, the specialist of
Seeds.
they are.
Seeds is a more polite.
I'm telling to my students, the Palestinian-Israeli students, don't believe that you are the chosen people. Not. My concept of identity, my concept of nationality is not biological concept. I am attacking the genetics research about what is a Jew. The difficult to define in Israel what is a Jew, a secular Jew. Put a lot of people in the road to define Jews by genetics. You read about it. I was attacked by it. It's unbelievable. Not in Britain. They were very, very careful not to mix genetics with culture. But in the United States, all the attacks in the United States say no. The Jews are a people. The Jews are a race people because the genetics, the DNA, is common for the Jews. It's a bluff. It's not serious. It's only the Yeshiva University in New York. Now, I don't believe the Palestinians are the real Jews, because Jews for me is a cultural concept, not a genetic. They are not Jews at all. They are Muslims, Christians, not Jews. You understand? Because for me, Jewishness is first of all, before everything, a very important religion in the Western world. They are not Jews. But the chance that a member of Hamas living in Hebron will be much more a direct descendant of the ancient Hebrew is 1,000 times more possible than me. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Professor Sassoon now. I'd like to comment on the same point.
Just to add on this eternally fascinating topic of who is a Jew. Freud has a sense, who is a Jew? And he says, well, I don't know, the religion, I'm not religion, I don't speak Hebrew, there's a long list of things he's not. Yet, I cannot put it in words. Can you imagine the founding father of a talkative pure,
yeah.
The one where he could not find the words to define it. It was something imponderable. But like you, I was rather taken by Jean-Paul Sartre's famous essay that the Jew, in a way, is defined by the anti-Semite, that it is the others. And, some identities we choose, football teams, stuff like that, but even that there is a social and cultural environment which may force us towards one direction or another one. But on the whole, yes, we also respond. And that was the kind of Jew I was, the one you say is invented. I mean, a secular Jew, because not the religion and so on. But then, recently, I've become more Jewish. Not because I reread the Bible or I had, a return. No. It's not the anti-Semite which made me more Jewish.
You fall in love in a Jewish girl?
No. Not that, Shlomo. Much more interesting, or less interesting. No, I have become, like many others, I think like you, we had a conversation about this once. I have become more Jewish, not because of anti-Semitism, because frankly in my entire life I haven't really encountered anything which could remotely be described as serious anti-Semitism. I may have been lucky, but that's the way. No, what made me more Jewish is the state of Israel. But not because it's my state. Precisely because it is not my state. It's your state. You're an Israeli citizen. I'm definitely not. But because it calls itself the state of the Jews. And somehow it involves me in everything it does. And I cannot sort of just shrug my shoulders as I did for many years and say, look, this is nothing to do with me. They do whatever it is. I may dislike it, but then I'm not sure I like Chinese policies in Tibet or Burma or something. But actually it was not like that. And so I and some of the people, by the way, who are involved in Independent Jewish Voices, which co-organize this, in a way we are saying, not in our name. That is, I do not have a choice. When Israel will be a state of all its citizens, including, of course, the Palestinians, and it will be a state like Egypt or Switzerland or France and so on, and there will be no anti-Semitism, then I can relax. and say, I have so many other interesting identities, much more than the
Wonderful.
Jewish one.
It's very important. I treat you in the new book. I mention, not by name, I mention...
Hope so.
Yeah, I don't want to make you more difficulties that you have. Anyway, I mentioned this phenomenon of people that define themselves as Jew, not Zionist Jew, that feel very badly with the militaristic behavior of the Israeli state. I mentioned you, I praised you. There is not a problem. By the way, I didn't deny the Jewish identity. It's stupid. I denied the existence of a Jewish secular culture.
Oh.
You know, it's a fact that there are people that define themselves Jews. I praise you in the book. You helped me as an Israeli citizen. No problem. I don't think that you have a future as a Jew. It's very, very important politically. Okay. I remember in 1982, I was a student in the war of Lebanon. I was a student in Paris. And suddenly Pierre Vidal-Naquet called me and said, Shlomo, we are organizing a demonstration before the Israeli embassy against the war. You have to mobilize all your friends, Israeli friends, to come to the demonstration. This is under the name Jews Against the Lebanon War. And I asked him, yeah, but, you know, it's a problem. I cannot bring other people, not Jews, to the demonstration. And I had a lot of friends, not Jew. I think it's a problem. Till now, it's a problem. But, you know, I praise you, the book, that you exist. It's very important. Against anti-Semitism. But one thing is important. If you think, because of your position, because of your origin, because of your sensibility, that you have more a right to accuse, to attack, to critique Israel than non-Jew, this I'm against. You understand me? Mm-hmm. If you take the right to criticize Israel more than a non-Jew is doing it, I cannot accept. You understand me?
No, but
I don't think that you have a right more than a non-Jew to criticize the militaristic, racist attitude of the Israeli government today in face of the Palestinian people. But I appreciate a lot. I belong, by the way, Jewish for the peace in the Middle East in Paris. But I say that it is, you know, conjectural. It's, you know, it's a passager. You understand?
Transitory.
Yeah. It's not. I have a Jewish past. I have an Israeli present in my desire to have a universalistic future. I have a Jewish past. I came from Jewish origin, from Jewish culture origin. It's clear for me.
Yeah.
But my present is an Israeli culture. There is an Israeli theater. There is an Israeli cinema. There is a literature, Israeli literature. There is not a Jewish theater. There is not a Jewish cinema. Harold Pinter, your Harold Pinter, was a British playwright from Jewish origin, East European Jew. But he didn't write Jewish plays. I admire Harold Pinter.
And even if he had written Jewish plays, like, say, Webster or others, where the characters are Jews and so on, there will be British Jews.
Exactly.
Usually British Jews from Germany or Poland or Russia. I mean, I say this because there is a sort of, you know, when people talk about Jewish sense of humor, they think Woody Allen, they think American sense of humor. Well, that's Jewish-American sense of humor.
Wonderful. Not only this, I would, in the book...
Jewish food. Well, it depends. In the United States...
In Morocco, they did have a Jewish food.
Exactly. You know, it's certainly not my food, frankly, which is much better than the sort of Polish stuff. You know.
Now, look, we've got very little time left, so I want to give more people a chance to comment and ask questions. Now, would anyone else like to come in? Okay, there you are then. Now's your time.
Professor, I congratulate you on your lucid deconstruction of the myth of ethnicity and state. But I have news. The settlers aren't going back. And besides, there's room for them in the West Bank. There's no problem. As long as the Palestinians can inhabit Israel. So why not the one-state solution? You want a universalistic approach, after all.
It's a very interesting point that he makes, that in accordance with the work done by David Ben-Gurion and President Ben-Zvi about the people of the land of Israel, he argues actually that the Palestinians, and argues very cogently with charts going all the way from AD 68 to 90, is what I think of you. Similarly, for us Jews in the Galut, in the diaspora, it really doesn't matter what we think we are, whether we think we're secular or Labour or conservative. What matters in our history is what the host community think of us. Now, in 1948, that the Palestinians are in fact Jews. And a lot of the people have vestigial Jewish customs in their families and tribes and traditions. And I know that the Shomronim, the Samaritans up in Nablus, have had Judaism in Israel unbroken for over 2,000 years. I want to make that point. The second point is a question to you. Are you by any chance aware of the work in Israel of Mr. Tzvi Missinai? Does that name ring anything to you?
I met him.
You met him, you know him. So anyhow, for the audience, he's written a book called Brother Shall Not Lift Up Sword Unto Brother. And this
okay, well, let's have another question. We've got somebody up at the back there.
Professor, can I remind you of a lovely statement of Queen Victoria to Mr. Gladstone? She said, "My dear Mr. Gladstone, it really doesn't matter a jot what you think of me. What matters